Hello everyone, hello, my name is Katie, and on my channel here I talk about planners, obviously, but I also talk about being neurodivergent and navigating chronic illnesses, multiple. And today I wanted to talk about picking your planner, especially when you're overwhelmed. I have been watching some really great videos out there talking about some of the struggles and some of the things that are working for people about picking their new planner this year. Caveat here, it is August 28th. So we're coming up on, let's see, we still have September, October, November, December. We still have 4 more months of the year. And I think the last few years there have been, well, I will preface this. I made a list here because I didn't want to miss anything. And in the past, when I've had these kind of like just talks, I've covered it up and gone down, but then I kind of end up repeating myself. So I made a list and I'm not going to go in order. So I'm sorry if it helps to like go in order, but my brain, ADHD, all these things to me are interconnected. So I'm going to be kind of bouncing around a little bit. And also when I was writing the list, I was like, wait, options kind of come before seasons. Anyway, that's just how my brain works. There have been a lot of options that have come out, and especially in certain types of planners, like this particular planner, especially with this type of paper. It started off with like Hobonichi's been around for a long time. Then Sterling Ink came out and Paper Tests and Twines and Paper. And like there's more. I think there's Nisha. I think there's I'm not going to be able to get through them all. Wonderland 222, I think, or something. What's the other one with the little sparkles on the front? Anyway, there are so many out there that I'm forgetting them. Right? Like there's so many. And this can lead to complete overwhelm, and especially overwhelming when those who really liked the Hobonichi Cousin, I never got to experience that one. It was always too much for me on the page. Being someone who likes like a really clean layout, especially like doing this. I want space. I want to be able to do what I want to do on the page. Yet there are times when I want structure. So I'm going to get more into that down the road here, but there's just so many options out there. And I think collectively we all went through this summer last year of like, then this came out, then this, take a note. Like there were so many last year that it was, for me, I know I personally got caught up in, I wonder what it'd be like to try this one or that one or this size or that size. And I did go through that. I bought sizes that I didn't end up using. I tried a TN for a while. Just the notebook, I created a planner out of a notebook just with stickers. And then I got really curious at the beginning of this year and tried an A6 for a while because I just couldn't imagine what it would be like in my hands. Like I understand putting the dimensions on the website and going, oh, okay, it's about like this. But there's something sensory related here that's just like you need to kind of feel it in your hands to go, okay, it's this thick, it weighs this much, it can fit into these bags that I carry, or I just want to carry it by itself. Like there's so many different use cases that come along with saying like this is going to be a planner that I use all year long. That also we can get caught up with being in, like our lives are constantly changing. So we have these seasons in our lives. That's kind of what I've been hearing a lot from people this year, excuse me, that has, it's hard to put into words because it is kind of deep. And on my channel here, I go deep. I I don't really do surfacey things. I guess my co-plans are surfacey, I guess. Just saying, okay, I'm putting down the stickers. This is how my next week goes. I would consider that a little bit more surfacey. But I really like to dig in deep and go, what's really going on here? So when I heard Megan Rhiannon talk about her experience right now with trying to be in a planner but can't. And I watched Lindsay Scribbles do this fantastic, what are they called? When you draw the circles that connect to each other. I want to say bubble tree, and that's not right, but diagram. Yeah, I'll remember it a little later here. But just those two as examples. And then there's a lot of other people talking about like, okay, I'm not sure what I'm going to get. Tori, I think, as I mentioned in my co-plan with me this last weekend, everyone is in a different season and there's different reasons to be in the season. There can be a lot that someone is going through. Like Megan is going through a lot of health things right now. She's trying to figure out a possible sleep disorder, about what's happening with her sleep, and it's really affecting her. And the blog post that I read about her, and where she's just trying to figure out a place to call home for her memories. She does a lot of memory keeping. I don't keep so much memories in my planners. I do have like a 5-year diary, but I don't do pictures or, art or anything like that. And again, those are different use cases. Like we're going to get into that too. But I really felt for Megan because she was saying like she was documenting things and going back and documenting things. And it was remembering all these hard times. I'm trying to remember, was it Tori who was talking about where there was a section of her life and she had to tape it up. I'm trying to remember who that was. Again, my memory's not great. And hence why I keep planners and I keep diaries, because I don't remember a lot of the previous day even. Like my memory is just not great at all. I don't remember like which day things happen. And so when you're going through something that is hard to document, it's going to be very, very, very hard to find a safe place to keep that in. So it is a huge struggle at times when, if you have loved ones who have passed away, if you have a period of time where your health is really at jeopardy, or you're trying to get diagnosed. I've gone through a lot of times where I'm going from doctor to doctor because I'm like, something is not right here. And then it's hard to remember those appointments or procedures or things, like when I've had panic attacks trying to get an MRI. Like, you don't want to document that kind of stuff. You want to go through therapy and talk about it and try to process it and move on, but it's not something that you want to keep revisiting in your planner. So everyone's going to have like a different degree of like good things and bad things, bad, quote, bad, a variety of different kinds of things that they're wanting to put into their planner. And it can be a season of just a lot of hardships that you're going through. Or it could be something that, like Lindsay was talking about yesterday, they're, trying to buy a house soon, and that her plans are very, like leading up to something positive. Now they're not gonna, no one's plans are going to go perfectly to plan, right? They're not going to go exactly how you plan them out. So what we're putting in our books is like the past and the future, right? It's both. It's like, I want to memory keep. I want to like remember everything that's happened. Oh, we had this meal on this day, or I went to this appointment, because I need to know that I need to schedule another appointment 6 months from now. Or it's, hey, this is what my upcoming week looks like, and how am I going to navigate that when things just constantly pop up in your life? So it's this very interesting dichotomy of past and present going on. And then those seasons come along where if you have kids, maybe they're at home with you, then they go to school, and their schedules are constantly changing. Sometimes you're, dealing with, or just like trying to support your child having a sport. And then that sport is not year long, usually, and it only happens during a certain part of the year, and your whole schedule can change after that. Like if it's football or soccer, like it's during a certain part of the year, and then it changes. And so when we're trying to pick a planner that works year round, we can be like, well, this won't have everything. I need to have, a way to make sure that I am keeping track of all those appointments. It can be something that pops up mid-year that you just never planned on, whether it's taking care of someone who's elderly, and then all of a sudden you need to be there more, and you're like, wait, I need to have this in some way on a calendar so that I know when to be there when. So it can be really hard to pick a planner now that's going to foresee this whole future of next year, right? Like we're not even saying from September to September. I mean, that's almost kind of like a academic year, but I'm talking about like we're picking from next January to next December, which is 16 months. Yeah, that's a lot of times you'll see a 16-month wall calendar, right? But that's kind of what we're trying to ascertain of, like, how is this next almost year and a half going to be? And no one can tell. We can't tell what the future will be. And that can be very frustrating. And when we're trying to create this home, this physical item that we can rely upon, we can put a lot of pressure on ourselves because of how, at times, I'm not saying everyone is like this at all, but I know there's an element, especially if you have a YouTube channel, especially if you're sharing on Instagram, especially if you're sharing with other people, of how you want to be perceived. I'm just being honest about that because there are certain brands that are perceived in one way or the other. I want to look at these as tools, but I've evolved over the years. I don't think there's a better planner system. I believe fully that there's a planner that works best for you. It can be one that you buy at Office Max that is like they've been producing it for 50 years and it's just plain. It can be one you pick up from Target that has illustrations that you love. It can be a really funny one or a snarky one. There's some really great ones out there that each week already has illustrations and stuff in there that really support who you want to be and carry you through the year. It can be really inspirational. It can be completely blank and you are setting it up yourself. I'm trying to think my journey. I definitely had kind of a vertical that was more from an office store starting out, and I needed all the hours on there because I needed to visually see that. I'm trying to remember if I had one earlier than that, like in college or high school. But this was more like my first professional jobs I had. I needed to see like the hourlies and how they, and granted, that's what I use now. This is what suits my mind the best. Let's see. Where is my weekly? It's just that, this kind of layout, I need to see where the overlaps are because I very much overbook myself because I forget. Like someone can say, okay, that's on August 28th, and I mistake it for August 26th, and I put two things on August 26th or something, vice versa. I have dyslexia, so I often confuse dates. And so I also add them to my digital calendar to see if I correctly saw the right number and see if they actually do overlap or if they're on two separate days. Because for me, it's better to see what the computer puts them at, but then I don't completely trust my computer because it's so easy to delete something, right? It's more for like a reference of, do those things overlap? Then I put them on paper, and then I have a little bit more peace of mind. I do want to talk about planner peace. I think that's a little bit under acceptance. I'm going to get to, I guess it's kind of both, is that I think there are people who pop up in Facebook groups and on Instagram and even on YouTube that are like, I feel like I found planner peace. I feel like I have peace with my system. And I do believe that you can have ease, and ease and peace are very, very similar. I also do feel like planner peace is being perceived as this ultimate goal. And I do think that for some people that's temporary. And for other people, they can be like, I've always been in this one size notebook. Here I have the last 10 years. They're all the same. I have this archive all in one book. And that works for them. That can happen. That can happen. Anything can happen, right? But I also do feel like there's a lot of pressure on, no, this is the year I'm going to get planner peace. I'm going to find it. I'm going to set it up. I'm going to be on top of things. I'm going to get the right size and horizontal or vertical layout, and all these things are going to line up, and it's going to make this best year ever because I have peace every time I come to it. You may have different feelings about what planner peace means to you, but I do think you can have these moments in any planner when you greet the day or wind down the day or even midday of coming to your planner and feeling like there's so much ease there. It also just depends on your season, right? You can be like, well, I have planner peace because I don't have much going on. And then when something big happens, maybe your basement gets flooded. Maybe, again, you have medical things going on, or maybe there's a family member that needs something. Are you still going to have planner peace? I'm honestly asking. I don't know if, I know for me, I used the Moxie Life system for years, and I just had one planner. And it worked for a certain point, and I'm trying to think. I think I had more peace then because things were calmer in my life, but I was leading up to my, more diagnoses that I have now. So I kind of feel like there was a lull happening there, and I did have more peace because I had a system that was working. Moxie Life I bring up because it also has an accompanying color-coded system. And at that time, I needed things color-coded. And I still color-code sometimes. If you follow me for a while, you have seen that I don't use that color coding anymore. I mean, a little bit. I do at the very beginning of the year, and I've showed this before, is I do color code more for this matrix than anything else. It's just more for like overall goals. In the Moxie Life system, you're revisiting those goals monthly and weekly and seeing if you stay on track. And I think reflection is a huge thing. At that time, I had never really reflected that often, and that worked. And then that became overwhelming to stack on everything else. I think I transitioned from those kind of check-ins to a 5-year diary. I do one for myself and one for my son. And at the end of those 5 years are really important milestones. So it was important to me to start them on a certain date so that when they're finished, but I also use them as tools to remember what happened and kind of reflect upon the day. I don't really look at them and think about, I could have done better this here. It's more of an objective, here's what happened. Maybe in my mind, I'm reflecting a little bit more. I think I do have like I think I process a lot on a monthly view. I do a reflection monthly in a separate notebook that I have carried on. I think I have like 2 or 3 years worth in there that I just reflect once a month with those categories. So yes, I am still using that system. And that's the other thing is like there are planners that have systems built in. I use a paper test that has like a whole grid on one side of things that have everything laid out. And I've repurposed those to, well, not repurposed, but like the top looks like you can do like an hourly. And at one point she had like the numbers for the hours. And then once she removed those hours, then I was able to go, oh, I can write in my own numbers and make it my own type of table. And it was like that instantly clicked with me. I've talked about this before. It's like when I instantly saw that was removed, then I knew I could use it differently in this same structure. And I think having those, that structure is really important. So I'm ADHD and autistic. So it's like, it's a mix where I need something that's loose and open, just like this, so I can just use it as paper or try something out. But then I also need a lot of structure for things that I'm doing repetitively so I can track. Like, so my health planner really does help to have a lot of structure there. I am trying something a little different where it's like structured on one side and then kind of open here. And I'm going to see if that's going to work or not for me. And I think that very much plays into what is going to work for you. Is like, do you need something really free? Because if you're putting a bunch of art and photos and collages and memorabilia and all this kind of stuff in your planner, you know, having too much structure may be too much. Or if you are commonplacing and you have like a structure and you want to categorize everything, then that's really necessary. And I also think that sometimes you have to go through and use something for a while before you know. And it can be a privilege to be able to go and buy multiple items and try each one of them out and see which one works for you. And I think some people do kind of count on, like I did last year, of like, I bought multiples and then I did sell a couple and then I gave one, you know, to my husband. And then right now, the little A6 that I have, I keep it around. I keep these sizes around just to feel what that size has. So I have, you know, maybe last year's planner. So it's a 2023 and it's just sitting around because I didn't do as much in it, but I needed to know the form factor of it. I need to know that sensory part, right? And it, again, like you can sell them. When you're all done with them, or if you're like, you get it in your hand and you're like, something feels off. It can be the font on the page isn't dark enough or big enough or small enough, or, you know, there's so many reasons. And I think that's when people can feel very overwhelmed because of all these choices. I also think that when you are just getting started in something, whether you are young, a child doing something, whether you are in college, whether you are just dabbling in something for the very first time, it's hard to remember the restrictions that you have at that point. So when I first started with planners, I would get one a year. And that is pretty typical for a lot of people. You just get one planner. But as I've grown a YouTube channel, slowly, incrementally, I'm still a baby channel. It's that there's a lot more variety. There's a lot more things I want to show you. There's a lot more things I want to try. So my special interest has grown and become a hobby. I've always been interested in stationery and pens and all these things. There are restrictions and boundaries that I put on things. Like a lot what Lindsay was talking about in hers. It was like, look, I'm putting boundaries on myself because we have this goal. So I'm not gonna, she was just putting like financial boundaries of saying, I don't want to get like expensive covers. I don't want to do these things. And when you think about restriction, when you think about art is our creativity. It's also a way for us to connect with what's going on right now, whether it's political or not, whether it's your emotions, whether it's, what you're going through at the moment. It can be this season. So often when you look at a piece of art, you kind of want to know when that happened, because everything of society and political and emotional and everything that you contain and that you're outputting this art, whether it's a planner, a canvas or something, is you at that time, right? There's this period of time. And I think with planners, it's even more so because it's very dependent on the dates. You are changing it up per week. Like I'm just decorating, but if you are like putting all of what your family is doing, what you're going through, whether it's you're going through school and you're, putting in like trips that you're taking and you're putting in postcards and stickers and labels of things, making collages, painting it all up, this whole experience. There are parts in your life where you're very restricted. I mean, think about just taking your planner on a trip. Are you in actually using it on that trip? You don't have like all your pens and all the planners. Like you can't haul that around if you have a huge collection at home. So you have this restriction of like, hey, I brought a few pens. I brought this one planner because it's my favorite. And that could be a key into what's most important to you. If you're overwhelmed with like, well, I don't know exactly if vertical or horizontal or blank is best for me, try to, think about, well, what's your first inkling of like, if you were to go on a trip, what would you first take? Now it could be form factor, right? You want something small, but it could kind of lead into what might be best day to day for you. And again, people have multiple books as well. They're tracking reading, they're tracking things that are really important to them. So they'll have a whole book dedicated to something that's really important to them, whether it's spiritual or whether it's political or whether it's for their kids or whether it's health related, right? There are all these use cases. And sometimes you just don't know until you try something. But I also feel like when we're getting started, kind of loop back around here and repeat myself a little, we have restrictions. And when people create art, they can have restrictions upon themselves. Whether you're a graphic designer or something, you can have a limited tool set and still create what you want to create. Now, there are times when, like right now, if I said, okay, I want to stamp something here and I had 0 stamps, then I'm not going to be able to stamp, right? Could I draw something that looks like a stamp? Can I think about this differently? Like, oh, I wish I had some fancy paper that I could tear and then glue in here. Well, what if you didn't have the fancy paper and you tore the page instead and you kind of created some art on there? It's interesting. Like I went to school for art, and that's what I did more along the graphic design realm for a long time. And it always came with a set of restrictions. So whether it was the actual assignment during school, whether it was the client needing a certain thing within a certain budget or a certain amount of time, whether or not I had the tools on hand, you create within restrictions. And the reason why I want to talk about this is if you only had one planner, and you could buy nothing else, and you were just handed this one for free or something, sorry, my son may be yelling in the background. He's playing. He only has a couple more days of summer left. So if you have those restrictions, what can you do within them? Just like traveling. Like if you can only bring a few things with you, now you're not doing your Monday through Friday or your typical work week, whatever that actually looks like. You're not doing that on vacation, right? So you're not like having to like track Zoom meetings or in person or clients or reports or anything like that. But it could be a clue on what is like the minimal thing that I need. And does it really matter if it's vertical or horizontal? Does it really matter if it's something you have to draw every time or not? You could say, yes, that definitely matters. Then I have to draw my whole like week in of like, here are the days of the week or have them go down this way. Like you may not have time for that. Whether it's your health or family or obligations, you're like, no, that's not going to work for me. I right now need some kind of health journal that has some structure to it. So that's why I'm kind of leaning towards the one that I've used all this year that has worked. I'm like, you know what? I tried it at the beginning of the year. I wasn't sure if it was going to work all year. I found that I think I've been pretty consistent with it. I haven't had to change too much in there. I think I might change some things up as the year rolls over because I wanted this book to have consistency. But I needed all of that structure in there. I could not have a blank notebook. That is just something I absolutely need. So I guess what I'm talking about is like, what are those things you absolutely need? It doesn't even need to be on paper. Does it need to be shared with other people? Is it something you're going to have laid out on your desk? Is it something that you're going to carry with you? And I think a lot of people talk about EDC, everyday carry, and then a lot of people realize they're not carrying it with them. I no shade to anybody. I think there's a lot of people that do have to carry it every day. And I think that can be very important for if you're going to a lot of health appointments. Excuse me, I'm going to take a drink. Okay, I'm back. Thank you. I kind of got a little lost because I had to do a couple other things. But I was talking about like having health planner and having certain things there, especially if your time and schedule don't allow for you to draw and do a lot of things, then you need something more functional and to be able to contain the information that is there. Another thing I talked about earlier this year, I think, or last year, was what do you want? What information do you want to have, whether it's memory keeping, but what information do you want to compare? Whether it's week to week, whether it's with a health planner and you're tracking certain things. Do you want to see sleep next to stress? next to other migraine symptoms, next to hormonal changes? Like, what information do you want to see compared together? Do you need to see it day per day? Are you tracking what you're eating? Do you need to see 24 hours to see like, okay, if I ate this and then I had these symptoms later? Or is it something over like you need to see a month at a time and it has, as I was saying, like things compared over that month, especially for hormonal changes, or like 3 months at a glance where you can see that rhythm happening with your cycle. There's a lot of things to consider. But you can make things work enough for a short amount of time until you have more clarity into this is going to be my use case for this season. And that season may be a month, it may be 3 months, it may be for the entire year, it may be for the next 5 years because maybe your child just started elementary school, and so usually that block of time can be very similar, although what they're interested in, whether it's art or music or sports or something, can change. You may join some kind of volunteering or PTA group or something in your local community that requires you to, that may have more of a different kind of schedule where it's like, well, I can come in Tuesdays and Thursdays, or maybe it's every other, or one Thursday a month, or something like that. You may change jobs. And so you went from a Monday through Friday to working through the weekends to working odd hours to seeing how it can just fit. Maybe you just take hours, anything that you can grab anything that you can schedule in for that week around what your family is doing or around classes that you're taking. Because every quarter classes change, right? So finding something that, and you may not even need a monthly calendar, right? I very much need a monthly calendar. Again, it's that being able to look at a month and go, okay, this is towards the beginning, this is towards the end. I have some blank space in the middle here, just to kind of understand that you could have Monday start or not. It took me a while to adjust to a Monday start monthly, but because I was in this type of book, it's when I moved to having, Monday Start was in the weekly for Moxie Life, and that's when my brain started going, okay, Monday feels more like a start. And then I'm like, okay, I need that translated to the month here. But you can always use stickers and redo things. Stickers are magical, right? You can, and that brings me into like, do stickers help keep track of things? Do you need icons instead of words? So having, again, much like color coding, do you need icons to go, okay, here's my book club, here's when the babysitter comes, here's when I am pet sitting for the weekend, here's when I'm exercising and doing different things per day, because it may not be every day. So there's just so many variations and decisions to make that we can really get into decision fatigue. And I think that's a really real thing, especially for folks who are neurodivergent, that you can like run out of steam real quick trying to make a bunch of decisions. Maybe it's something that you think about one aspect a day. Like, just think about, do I want a certain type of paper? The next day, do I even want to use stickers? Like, question what you've done. I look back and go, do I just want to go back to like functional planning and not use many stickers? Do I want to use more brush pens? And do I want to do the same thing for an entire month? Like watching Catherine from Sterling Ink do her stickers. She just plans out for the whole month, so they are just there when she goes through, because she has 2 very young kids, and she can sit down for the hour, put all the stickers in, and then she can just go for the month. There's so many ways to personalize this. And again, when you are looking what others have and thinking, am I going to be perceived that way? Even if no one is looking at your book, maybe you're not taking pictures of it. Maybe you're not posting it anywhere. How are you perceiving yourself? Do you feel like you need to have a certain item in order to be planning like other people? Is it that FOMO, that fear of missing out of like, well, they're doing that and that certain thing? I've got caught up in that many a time. But I also think that FOMO is something that's kind of pulling on us a little bit of like, I've over the years have kind of attuned my wants when I feel a really strong pull towards something, or if the pull is because someone else has it. Like that, you might need to talk to a therapist about that. I know I have. But just going, do I want this because I know this will work really well for me? Or because I see that the person, like a person online, has this cover with this planner with these stickers. Now that lineup may work perfectly for you. Or I have to look at my autistic tendencies of collecting and building a collection and going, do I want to do this or not? Lindsay talked about that a little bit. I'm not saying she's diagnosed with anything. I'm just saying she was like, if I get into the TN Traveler's Notebook, world, then I will want this, and then this goes together. And the bands and the certain notebooks in there and the whole, like, you can build up to kind of live within that ecosystem, or you can venture out on your own and just do it your way. And that can be hard. That can be hard to see all these really beautiful things and want this sensory experience of touching them and using them. I think because all these planners have a very similar paper, if not the same, that we can all have that paper experience, depending on how big it is, of course. So we are having that shared experience of this kind of paper, or a thicker paper if you prefer that because you don't like seeing the words through. But when we think about, okay, I am getting fatigued by all these options, then try to go back to, in the past, if something has worked for you, recognizing that that could have been a season, right? That, okay, I used to use this planner 5 years ago and I loved it. But was that when you didn't have kids? Or was that before you got this different job? Was that before you had to support something else in your life? And that's hard. That's hard to be like, I love that period of time. And then this is where I get to acceptance. Accepting your own boundaries, accepting your own budgets, accepting your own experience of right now, of what you need, accepting that you may be grieving. And that's kind of coming back to what Megan was talking about with, like, I keep looking at these pages and they're just, it makes me sad and like I'm fighting for my life is what she was talking about. Like that, when you have that kind of medical needs going on, the acceptance of that grief of what you're looking at, like maybe 5 years from now, you might want to revisit that and see how much you went through, because that was hard. That was super hard. And maybe you do want to revisit it a long time from now. But right now, it's not helping to see like these patterns that just aren't changing when you are desperately wanting change. Sleep being one of them. It could be any other health type thing, or any kind of, like, you're stuck in a job and you're just like, I just don't want to be at this job. And you keep looking at your planner and you just see like every week you're going back to that job. That's painful. And you're being faced to it. Every time you look at it, you're facing like, do I need to accept this? Do I need to fight for change? Do I need to fight to find the right doctors? Do I need to fight to find a better job? Or be in a, and I mean better, not as in better paying or anything, although that could be the circumstance as well, but maybe you just need a supportive environment to be in. Maybe it's you're going through a breakup, or as well as, as I've mentioned, like caring for a sick one or something. And it's a really painful time. And here you are like thumbing through your pages like they're nothing. Like, oh, let me just look back to this month. And you're like, oh, that was really hard. That was really hard. And I have a bunch of blank pages and I feel ashamed of that. All these other times I was able to push through and make things happen, but something really dark was happening then. And that happens to us. And that's hard. So it can be that this year you won't find acceptance for that. And it may bleed into next year and you still won't have acceptance for it. But yeah, acceptance of what is happening in your life, acceptance of restraints that you have, whether you can just buy one planner. It's hard. It's hard. So I bring this up to just kind of think a little deeper. I've probably also brought up a lot of things that you're like, man, I didn't even think about all these other things. And now I'm even more confused. So I'm sorry if that's happened. It's not my intent to do that. I just want to see if maybe something I say clicks a little bit of like, wait, I'm pushing this ideal so forward in my mind that there is going to be perfection, or there's going to be this beautiful ideal planner piece, this element that I'm going to achieve by buying this certain planner. And I really want to talk about all these things as coming together to see what is actually going to be the easiest thing for you. What is that planner ease that you can put together for yourself for now? And it may be that 6 months from now, you come across something that's going to provide more ease that just does not exist yet. And there's something kind of cool about coming upon this thing that you've really wanted over the years and didn't realize that you needed, or that you wanted, or you wanted to try. And it can be transformative. Again, like 5 years ago, Sterling Inc. didn't have their common planner yet. And then when it came out, people were like, oh, wait, this is what I've been looking for. I think what is it, 22 that it came out? But like in 2020, it wasn't there. She had her stickers for a long time because I've been a huge fan of her stickers. But knowing that maybe there's something like people have found a form factor in this paper and then made subtle tweaks to it. So there's so many planners that are similar that it is hard to have that discernment of like which one. And maybe it's that 3 of them will work just fine for you. And you just pick the one that feels the best for you. And you just trust that gut feeling. So I think that's part of the acceptance part of things, is trusting that you're making the best decision at the time. And that, again, 6 months from now, when you actually do see something, and I'm talking like 6 months as in not when planner season comes around next summer, because that's turning into the planner season. It used to be the fall, and things shifted a lot. And I think a lot of people are like, it's too early, and that's fine. It can be too early for people. I think you can buy a lot on secondhand markets. You can try to get a hold of one. You can find the best similar one that you can find and then draw in what you're missing. Because there are some pre-order times that there has been created this kind of scarcity. And I think some companies have balanced that out. And I don't know if all companies have yet, but there was a lot of like planners running out and people like really wanting to try things. I think you can go to use marketplaces and find some. But sometimes that takes like having an alert out and saying, hopping on it pretty quick, having savings there to go, yes, I can immediately, pick up a planner. Being open to, like a buy, sell, trade group that someone has written part way through and maybe have even cut out some pages. Being open to that, to go, okay, I just want to try this, right? Like I just need to know if this is something I want to use in the future. And sometimes you can get like a good discount on that, but knowing that it's not going to be perfect. It's not going to be this pristine planner. You're going through a transition. And that's another big thing about acceptance and trust is like, you can go through these transitions, and then when it comes to the time that you've like, a lot of times I'll hear about this planner company and they're like, we already had our pre-orders done. And so I'm totally missing out for that year. And that's kind of what happened with the first Sterling Ink planners. Like I kind of heard about it, totally missed that pre-order. And then by like January, I think it was March, I was like, no, I really do want to try that. And she came out with an undated version and I had to put all the stickers in. And it was like, yes, it took a lot of time, but I was really proud of putting that all together because my neurodivergent brain was like, I love the, putting it all in. It just took a lot of time and I don't think I could do that again. But there was this acceptance of like, I was able to get what I wanted, even if it wasn't perfect, and I made do with what I had. And then, but knowing that I really like the concept of it all, and that I wanted to invest the following year and just like put in my planner or just watch the Instagram of just like, okay, I'll catch the next wave. But I also heard about certain planners and I'm like, oh, that one I really want to try. And then as I saw people using them, I'm like, I'm glad I didn't get that one. That I saw enough through YouTube videos that I'm like, nope, that wasn't for me. And letting that wave just pass on by, There's something really innate in trusting your gut on certain things. Yes, we can buy something and then find out, this isn't going to work at all. But you're trusting the gut feeling after you've tried it, going, I didn't have all the information, but now I do, and I'm trusting myself then at the later point. Trust. I think it can be very hard to trust yourself and to go, I keep getting all the wrong ones. I keep, but I don't think you are. I think you are trying. And I think I see like all these messages in the Facebook groups of like, I used this last year. It's not working. What do you guys recommend? I think when we talk to other people, sometimes it helps to have a bunch of opinions and to go, you know what, I never thought of it that way. That really hones in on my own trusting to know whether or not something is good for me, where this is going to work. And so you have like all this other feedback. You can build that together and go, you know what, now I feel more trust. I trust myself more making this decision because I have feedback. Or it can be like that can confuse you even more. But knowing that a lot of those opinions and feedback are their experiences and not yours. And looking at those things of like, try to suss out as similar of experiences. Like someone who is 20 years younger is going to have a completely different like set of circumstances. There can be lots of similarities, but there can be like a season of life that it helps to talk to other people that are going through very similar things, that can kind of go, well, I use it this way. Or you can have somebody say, you know, hey, I use this to, you know, track all my Wordle things. Like a lot of people are talking like the very beginning pages here. How do you use those like 3 columns? And it was perfect to put the Wordle scores in. You may never use Wordle, but that can kick a little idea, like kickstart, springboard a little idea in your head of like, wait, I don't do that, but I could keep track of a page of a book that I'm reading, or like what else is like 5 digits or 5 letters, or enough to say like episode 3 of season 2 with a space in between. That's like 5 boxes. Something like that. And sometimes it takes kind of thinking outside the box. So I know I've rambled on here for a while. I'm sorry if it's not sequential. It's kind of, you know, these all kind of feed into one another. But I thought it was really important to kind of talk about these things on a little deeper level. And not really like, I mean, I shared some of my experiences. I'm looking at this next year of, I think I've already bought my planners, and it's 2 planners as of right now. And I might pick up one more. I do have, you know, business stuff that I run. So I need some kind of like business that's not, and that's another key thing is like, if you have information and you have a public persona of sharing what's in your planner, sometimes you have to separate that out and have, you know, some secrets or some like, hey, I don't want to share this stuff. And this is my forward showing part. And not everyone is like that. So like if I could keep it all in one book, I probably would. And I think that's why I did for so long. It's just when I started sharing everything, I couldn't share like some personal things that I just didn't want to share at the time. And I think that's why a lot of people have multiple books who are YouTubers and Instagrammers and stuff. So I am looking at like a business book. I'm looking at a health book because I'm, you know, dealing with Crohn's and PCOS and what else? It's a lot, and tracking a lot of symptoms on there. And perimenopause is slowly happening. Not too bad yet. And then also just having like, so business includes social media, and then I still have my books that I want to share here. My health and my business, I may not be sharing. And I kind of had this thought right before I sat down. It's like, I may only be sharing one book on this YouTube channel next year, which is kind of fun to just like look at one. It simplifies a lot. I mean, so many more of my videos here, I had 3 planners. I was putting together for 3 planners, and it was a little much. I still will be carrying on my 5-year journals for both. And sometimes I get a day or 2 behind, but I pretty much do that like every night. I sit down and I write just a little tiny paragraph about that big. But I don't put any photos in there. I don't put any other things. I could, but for me, I would be too overwhelmed. I would have too much pressure on myself to try to like grab certain photos and to put little memorabilia in there. I just know myself and I'm looking for ease. And so when I try to pile way too much on top of that, I know I will like forget it for a week. Because I'm avoiding it. I'm also an avoider. So, and I think when we look in those aspects, it's like looking at your energy levels, right? It's like if filling a big page every day is too much, you don't have the energy for it, then that's not going to work for you. And I think that's what a lot of people are struggling with is like there are times when they could fill it up and then there's times when they can only do a little. And when you have something that's flexible between the two, so like this could be a full page and then this could be 3 different days. This could be 1 day and then 3 different days. When you have that kind of flexibility so that you're not putting a lot of pressure on yourself, I think that really works. And I know Megan has talked about that a lot. And I think Lindsay and Tori and some other people are talking about that, like when they feel like they can fill up a page or not. And I don't think the goal is to fill up a page. I think we can have space. We can allow space in our lives. I think it can feel scary because we want to like go back and feel that consistency. But sometimes there's going to be these periods of life, whether you're just too busy to put things down or you're going through a rough time and there's just going to be some emptiness there. And emptiness doesn't necessarily mean bad. You're going to know though. You're going to look at that and go, I don't feel great about that. It's not bad. I don't want to label it as bad, but like, I don't feel great about this. I have emotions about this. When I look back through it, there's blank parts, and that makes me remember that I was sick or that I was depressed or that, I was going through a rough time or someone else was going through a rough time and I had to be there for them. Yeah. Please be kind to yourself. Have the tools that are kind for you and try. It takes some relearning to try to subtract the perceived notions of your system, of your book. You're trying to create a home for yourself. And a home means you feel connected. And a home means that it's a place that you're accepted and that you can return to when things are too much. But it's also a place where you feel empowered. Empowered to recenter yourself, to regroup, to know that you can only control so much, but there are some things that you can control. So connected, empowered, ease. Try to keep those in mind in how you're looking at your planner journey. It could be just journaling. It doesn't have to be a planner. And see if that can bring you some calm and some peace, some feelings of peace. But what is going to give you ease? And you may not know. You just may not know what is going to give you ease 6 months from now. And you have to kind of accept that and move on. So I hope that helps. And I think I'll end it there. Thank you for watching this whole video. If you got to the end and you want to, leave a little emoji about how you want to feel or a series of emojis. Make a little emoji story. I love those little, like, you put a bunch of little emojis and maybe they kind of create a mood or a feeling or a little story. Yeah, if you have time. If not, move on. Like this on the way out. If you enjoyed this, consider subscribing. I love to go deep on these types of things. More is coming about that. So, and again, I wish much ease in your life as time progresses and things change, as they always do. And I hope the best for everyone. Take care, everyone, and I will see you next time. Bye!